Wow, the delivery of this wine is just absolutely outstanding. So much going on. It's sweet, but it's fresh, it's vibrant, it's zingy, it's powerful, it's round, it's soft, it's oily, it's woo, it's a wow, this is an outstanding wine. What is up guys, bonjour, this is Julien, the French winemaking guy who makes wine videos here on YouTube, yes, wine videos. Today we're going to be digging into the influence of the vintage, or the millésime as we call it here in France, on the quality and the expression of sparkling wines. Yes, you've guessed it, we're going to be talking about fine French sparkling wines today. It's a very interesting topic because often sparkling wines, as you'd probably know perhaps, come as non-vintage cuvées. So those are blends of different wines from different years that are blended together to craft one single wine. But also some sparkling wines, often the finest, come as vintage cuvées from one single year that is written on the label. So how does that play out in a country like France, where vintage variations can be quite significant, right? As you probably know. Well, we'll find out tasting all of these wines. So I've partnered with a winery, a famous Maison, a Burgundy house that has been crafting fine sparkling wines in Burgundy since 1877. So it's been quite a while, 1877, right? What's fantastic about Louis Bouillot today is that they make nearly 20 different cuvées of sparkling wines, with each of them having their individual expression, individual character, personality, and so that's really fascinating to experience and taste the influence of the terroir, the different grapes, the different vintages, all those different parameters that make fine sparkling wines. So in the previous video that I made, we looked at the influence of the different grape varieties like the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir that they use to craft these wines on the taste and the flavors of those bubblies. If you haven't watched that video, it's a very interesting aspect of crafting sparkling wines that you must understand. I'll link to that video right here and at the end of this very video too, so you can catch up with that video and learn ever more, which is what we do here on this channel. But today we're looking at the influence of the vintage over the quality of different sparkling wines in France. Let's go. For a quick word, so you have the context of this tasting, you have to know that Louis Bouillot crafts wines, sparkling wines that are called Crémants de Bourgogne, or Burgundy Crémants. Louis Bouillot is based in Nuits-Saint-Georges, around the village of Nuits-Saint-Georges, one of the top villages in the heart of the prestigious terroirs of Burgundy. So we are near Beaune and near Von Romanée, that top area of Burgundy. It's not very well known outside of France, but Burgundy not only makes still Chardonnay and Pinot Noir wines, still white wines and red wines, but Bourgogne also produces very fine sparkling wines using the same grape varieties and using the same méthode traditionnelle, the same traditional method of fermenting the wines inside the bottle and aging the wines on their lees, same winemaking method as in Champagne. And because those wines are also made from prestigious terroirs, but in Burgundy, and because you don't pay for the name Champagne on the label of your sparkling wine, well, with those wines you get incredible value. But let's get digging into these wines. So I've got 6 of them here, so we're gonna be getting quite deep, but as always, as you know, I always keep things simple. So those are all vintage cuvées, obviously, and I've got 3 vintages of a wine that is called Perle rare, or rare pearl, which is Louis Bouillot's Grand Millésime Brut. So they're premium vintage cuvées, if you wish. I've got vintage 2016, 15 and 14, so we are going to be going back in time a little bit here. And then I've got 2 vintages of a wine that is called Perle d'Or, or the Golden Pearl, which is Bouillot's prestige vintage cuvée, if you wish. And I've got one of Perle d'Or Rosé, which is the prestige cuvée, but the pink version of it. So let's go into tasting those wines and understanding a little bit better what they are made of and what the vintage means for those wines. Perle Rare, this premium cuvee by Louis Bouillot, is in fact a blend of the 4 emblematic grapes grown in the Bourgogne region of France, Burgundy, namely obviously the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir, but there's also touches of aligoté that you may have seen on wine labels of still wines, and a bit of gamay as well. Those grapes are sourced from a variety of different terroirs around the Burgundy region, so some come from the Côte de Nuit, the Côte de Beaune, the Châtillonnais, the Couchois, and also a bit from the Mâconnais. Some grapes also from the Beaujolais. The wine is aged for a minimum of 24 months to refine the bubbles and increase its depth and complexity. So this is, as you've understood, this is a rather serious cuvee. Quite a lot of craftsmanship, sourcing grapes from different areas, keeping the wine for at least 2 years on its lees in the bottle to refine. So quite a lot of things have gone into making this wine, hence it being a premium vintage cuvee. But let's dig into what it actually tastes like. So I'm going to be starting here with vintage 2016. My understanding is that it was somewhat of the perfect vintage in Burgundy. Quite a long ripening season, very good sunny conditions. So we suspect 2016 is going to be quite brilliant. This is going to be our reference point, a young wine in a vintage cuvee in a great vintage of Burgundy. Let's get digging. Smelling the wine, it's straight away really fresh. It's very floral. There's loads of elderflower and blossoms. There's touches of citrus, so it's definitely the signature of a very fresh and vibrant, dry, sparkling wine. Very fresh and zingy to smell it. There's also these delicate notes of brioche from the aging on the lees. The fine bubbles. This is a very zingy, crisp, dry, sparkling wines. Explosive citrus characters here. It's a rather ripe citrus, rather ripe lemon characters, lemon flavors in here. It's yeah, zingy. It's got a little bit of lime, but there's also a kind of lemon marmalade coming through. A bit of apricot, so I can feel the richness, the ripe, fruity characters of that 2016 vintage. Explosion of spices on the back of your palate. You're getting the brioche, but you're also getting a lot of mixed spices, the clove, the nutmeg, a little bit of vanilla here and there. So a very complex, rather long and yeah, harmonious, balanced wine. Fantastic reference point here with this vintage 2016. Let's dig into vintage 2015 now. Let's go. So vintage 2015 is renowned for being a warm and sunny and generous vintage in Burgundy and like in most of the rest of France really. So you're going to be finding fantastic 2015 vintages from Bordeaux, from Burgundy. Quite a ripe, sunny and generous vintage. So I expect a wine that might be a little bit more generous, maybe a little bit more on the tropical side of things. If I look at the color of this 2015, well, straight away it's much more intense. You might be able to see it. It's much more golden, which perhaps confirms what I suspect, that this is going to be a bit of a rounder, richer wine made from riper grapes, because when you've got riper grapes, well, generally you extract a little bit more color out of the grapes because they're riper, the skins are a bit riper, so more color goes into the wine. Deeper color, very golden, beautiful wine. Definitely more on the nutty side of things here. It's a little bit more waxy. I'm getting a little bit more influence from the oak. The aromatic profile is definitely riper. While we had a lot of citrus, in here a lot of lemon, here we're definitely more on the stone fruit, the peach, the ripe apricot. It's ripe, it's generous, it's a little bit waxy, it's got a bit of honey into it, acacia honey, so it's still very subtle, but you can feel that this is warmer, more generous. Wow, so certainly a wine here that's got a little less zinginess, but it's much more opulent on the palate. It coats your palate, it fills your palate with a generous, oily texture. The bubbles seem even finer because it's got all this oily texture on your palate. Feels a little bit more like some of those quite oaky vintage cuvées, a little bit on the oxidative side of things. I actually like that style quite a lot as well, but you can sense between 16 and 15 very different expression of the grapes. Zingy and fresh and utterly balanced with 16, generous, round, oily, spicy with vintage 2015. Can't wait to dig into 2014 and see what it actually tastes like now. So let's find out what the wine says about how it was grown. Oh yeah, I'm getting even more waxy characters here. Fennel seeds, apricot liquor, it's very tempting. It's more on the jammy, really spicy side of things to smell at. Wow. Bubbles here are super smooth and silky. Wow, this is a very oily, generous wine, but there is still the zinginess of the vintage 2016, similar zinginess that comes through. It's got the oily texture of 2015, but also the zinginess, the freshness that shines through. Loads of big lemon shining through. There's an immense amount of things going on, but what strikes here is the utter balance. And wow, this is actually quite a revelation. These wines actually age really positively, because it seems that they become a little bit more tranquil, a little bit more harmonious, like they're delicious. You can sense all the different facets of every wine in those different vintages. Perle is already extremely well crafted. Like I'm stunned at how well crafted and how different those wines are. You can sense the vintage, you can age those wines for a couple of years. Fascinating experience. But let's move on to the more prestige, even more prestige cuvee and see what it actually tastes like. So Perle d'Or is a selection of the best grapes and the best vineyards grown by Louis Bouillot, sourced by Louis Bouillot, made from Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, but it's only made on exceptional vintages. Perle d'Or is really where Louis Bouillot puts all their craftsmanship, all their knowledge and all their best grapes, you know, to make a cuvee that they're really proud of. I've got two vintages here, vintage 2014, the same vintage I was tasting last before, and we're going to be going further back in time, back to 2012. Again, a beautiful shiny color with some golden hues. Yeah, vintage 2014, so imagine this is already a 5-year-old wine. You don't get to taste 5-year-old sparkling wines all that often, and I love when a white wine has got these golden, slightly golden hues. This to me indicates, oh, this is going to be interesting. There's a myriad of sweet spices here. This is another level in terms of complexity. Loads and lots of tiny little notes. There's a bit of pear, a bit of generous pear, a bit of generous apricot here. Wow, the harmony of the vintage 2014, as I was describing it before, is there. It's complete, it's acidic, but it's round and oily and opulent as well. But the level of concentration is here. It's just cranked up times 3 or 4 compared to the other wine. There's just this myriad of spices that just burst on the back of your palate, but yet still with this finesse, with this elegance in the delivery of the flavors, that is just an indication that this is a wine made from great terroirs. It reminds me a little bit of the Grand Crus, the Blanc de Blancs in Champagne. This type of smooth, very elegant, very restrained delivery, but also with the power, the intensity of very concentrated grapes, the freshness of a great limestone terroir I suspect has gone into this wine as well. So very complete, very long, and this extreme finesse of flavor delivery that is so outstanding. I'm actually quite stunned at this vintage 2014. The level of refinement in here is just really spectacular. Let's dig into the vintage 2012 and see how it compares. They aged this wine a little bit further, hence now 2012 being, from what I've heard, ready to drink now. It's had to wait for 7 years to really come to a more approachable completeness and expression. Wow, the notes of toasted hazelnut here. Slightly smoky, a little bit of vanilla. It smells a little bit oaky, but so delicate. Wow, I'm loving this smell. Wow, the blossoms and the kumquat, there's fresh like orange juice or kumquat bitterness and citrusiness that shine through. Really impressive nose and aromatic profile here. Wow, yeah, the toasted hazelnut shine through again with this myriad of sweet spices. The concentration in here is just absolutely immense. It's acidic, it's powerful, it's round, it's oily. Oof, I mean this, wow, this is mind-blowing. This is such an excellent sparkling wine. The complexity, the flavor concentration in here is absolutely stunning. Wow, and you're getting some rich, sweet, blonde caramel scents and flavors shining through, together with kind of limoncello, lemon liquor, freshness of the lemon, the juiciness of the lemon, the sweetness, the generosity. Wow, the delivery of this wine is just absolutely outstanding. So much going on. It's sweet, but it's fresh, it's vibrant, it's zingy, it's powerful, it's round, it's soft, it's oily, it's wow. This is an outstanding wine. So let's dig into Perle d'Or Rosé. Oh wow, beautiful salmon pink color. It's quite intense to look at. Yes, it's got this salmon pink, slightly orange hues to it. Wow, there's delicate notes of pomegranate and fresh red berries as we expect from a pink rosé, but it's more of the spices that really strike and shine through the aromatic profile. It's dominated by loads and loads of spices, a bit of delicate caramel. Wow, this is a very dry and acidic rosé wine. There's a lot of generosity. It's like a strawberry liqueur that would have been aged in oak barrels. It's got these tiny, delicate red berries flavors to it, together with lemon and a bit of, I think pink grapefruit. This is a rosé wine for gastronomy. This is a rosé wine for pairing with food. This is not your sweet and really approachable and really pleasing, like easy pink wine with loads of fruity characters. This is a complex rosé that is meant to be paired with food. This is going to be the perfect accompaniment with fresh and delicate, very subtle, very elegant, and the acidity, the zinginess, the precision in the delivery is what shines through this rosé. So what do we say after tasting so many delicious sparkling wines? Well, my thought is that while some sparkling wine producers make it a point to deliver consistent non-vintage cuvées, blending different years together to deliver the same taste year on year, some sparkling wine producers also make it a point of featuring the expression of their best grapes. Yes, I'm repeating this, the best grapes in any given vintage through the vintage cuvées that they make. What's really wonderful here is that those allow you to explore more finesse, more refinement and more complexity out of the vintage cuvées that you would normally do or find out of the non-vintage ones. Every vintage is a little bit different from one another, like it is with still wines really, and I find it fascinating to be able to taste the terroir, the climate, the grapes, the climate of the land during that specific year. I think it connects us to the producer and his vineyards a lot more, and therefore it connects us to the wine much more as well. We're not tasting brands anymore, but we're tasting individual wines from specific vineyards, specific vintage conditions, the passion from their winemakers, the tradition from each producer. With the vintage cuvées, this is what you can get to taste. Once you get to feel the vintage variations, it opens up a whole new level of appreciation for sparkling wines. And that's what I love about vintage cuvées. Now, Another second conclusion that I wasn't necessarily prepared or preparing before this tasting is how beautiful those wines are. I tasted the non-vintage cuvées by Louis Bouillot in that other video about the grapes that they use, the different grapes they use to craft those wines. And they were already really delicious and approachable and extremely good value. But those wines here have demonstrated to me, and more than demonstrated to me, how beautiful Crémants de Bourgogne can be. The Perle here are really, really affordable, even in their vintage cuvée versions compared to more expensive sparkling wines, French sparkling wines. They're already fantastically beautiful, they're approachable, they're ready to enjoy right now. And when they put all of their craftsmanship, all of their knowledge into crafting the best possible wines that they can in fantastic vintages, well, the results are rather mind-blowing, like it can be in other regions as well. But certainly here, that has been a demonstration of this level of craftsmanship. I mean, I guess you can't spend 130 or 40 years crafting sparkling wines in Burgundy and not come up with beautiful wines. I should have been expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it in such a level. That's just blown my mind. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope this was interesting. I will be making a video about the different terroirs that Louis Bouillot makes. They also make different cuvées that are more like single vineyard cuvées, or at least expressing different sites, different locations. I'm expecting a very interesting video on that one as well, so make sure to stay tuned to the channel for this. It's going to be coming up in about a month before Christmas for sure. I will see you soon in the wonderful world of wine. Au revoir, bye bye.